Welcome to Follow Me 11B. Discussions on current events, macroeconomics, and freedom and liberty from a veteran's perspective. Today I wanted to discuss the newly passed $700 billion Inflation Reduction Act passed tonight by the United States Senate, dubbed the IRA. And does the IRA equal stagflation? So to kick things off, let's go to a Breitbart News article I came across entitled, Senate Passes $700 Billion Inflation Reduction Bill. It's by Sean Moran. It's from August 7th, 2022. The Senate voted to pass H.R. 5376, otherwise known as the Inflation Reduction Act, 51-50. The legislation passed on a party line vote, with Vice President Kamala Harris breaking the tie. Here's a quote. "It's been a long, tough, and winding road," Senator Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York, said ahead of the vote. The Inflation Reduction Act arose after Schumer and Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat, West Virginia, struck a deal on a slimmed-down version of the Build Back Better Act. Yeah, that's all you can really call it. I mean, it's not exactly skinny, but it's slimmed down. Getting back to the article, the Inflation Reduction Act focuses on reducing the deficit and curbing inflation. Wait for it. By extending enhanced Obamacare subsidies. 1. 2. Spending more than $300 billion on climate change programs. And 3. Allowing Medicare to negotiate the price of drugs. Well, okay. At least we got one in there that makes somewhat sense. It's funny that they have to put that in a law, in a bill that's trying to become law, that we have to get special permission to negotiate the price of drugs that we buy. Moving on with the article, though. House Republican Study Committee, the RSC, Chairman Jim Banks, Republican of Indiana, has detailed the 50 most radical aspects of the legislation. Perhaps ironically for Manchin, the bill would not reduce inflation, according to Penn Wharton budget model and the Congressional Budget Office, CBO. The legislation would also hit manufacturers hardest with a 15% corporate minimum tax, according to the Joint Committee on Taxation, the JCT. The Inflation Reduction Act would also add more fuel to the inflation fire. According to Representative Jason Smith, representative of Missouri, the ranking member of the House Budget Committee, he explained that the Inflation Reduction Act utilizes budget gimmicks and fake offsets to mask the true cost of the bill. Smith said that the bill would add $114 billion to the debt when accounting for Manchin's fake gimmicks. The bill goes to the House, where it will likely pass, barring any major disputes that have yet to arise. The House Freedom Caucus released a statement after the vote declaring their opposition to the Inflation Reduction Act. Here it is. The statement. The fact is that Democrats' latest spending bonanza has far more to do with enacting their socialist Green New Deal agenda than truly helping Americans suffering from staggering 9.1% inflation that they're admitting to. A host of nonpartisan experts all agree that this legislation will not decrease inflation, and many forecast that it will have the opposite impact. Worse still, not only does this bill direct $369 billion in handouts to climate change special interests, but it does so on the backs of the American taxpayer. To finance their socialist agenda, Democrats are supersizing the Internal Revenue Service with $80 billion, 6 times the agency's annual budget. $80 billion to create an army of 87,000 new enforcement agents to target Americans, with as many as 1 million additional audits per year on taxpayers earning less than $200,000. The same middle class suffering the most from the skyrocketing inflation of Bidenomics. Now, as I recall, wasn't there some kind of campaign pledge that if you make, what was it, less than, was it 400, 300, 200? But it was definitely $200,000. You would not see one penny in new taxes. But I digress. Finishing this article, the Freedom Caucus added, quote, "The misnamed Inflation Reduction Act is a disaster from every perspective and must be defeated." But it won't be. Because it already made it through the Senate, it's done. We've got it. It's here. And now it's going to be moving over to the House of Representatives, where it's going to go through the House of Representative rigmarole probably over the course of this next week. And by Thursday or Friday, reports are that it should be voted on. And unless something really crazy happens, it will pass. And it'll be on Joe Biden's desk by possibly even Friday of next week. But let's talk a little bit about what the Dems say. This will combat climate change, for instance. It's going to reduce inflation. I mean, I don't understand how combating climate change is going to reduce inflation, number one. Number two, if they want to spend a lot of money on other government programs such as Obamacare, spending money we don't have means we either have to borrow it or print it. And at this point, it's all going to the print shop, baby. And that's only going to make the inflation problem worse. We're increasing the supply of money, inflating the supply of money, making the bubble bigger and bigger until we get to a point where the everything bubble explodes, or at least deflates. And it will deflate quickly, in my estimation. See here, The Economist is calling the IRA economic malpractice. Senator Lindsey Graham says the Inflation Reduction Act will make everything worse. Well, I normally don't listen to men named Lindsey give them very much credibility, but in this case, I agree. The way that they're going to say that they're going to pay for this bill is primarily through the corporate tax increase, the minimum 15% corporate tax. And right now, I believe it's at 21%. However, right now, corporations, and this is for corporations that are like billion-dollar corporations. So if they, for example, pay 21% tax, and they have offsets, shall we say, like depreciating buildings and equipment and some other expenses that they can deduct, they could bring that all the way down to zero. So what they're trying to do now is say, well, if you bring it down, you can bring it down, but you can only bring it down to 15%. And then that's the maximum you can do. But according to reports, Senator Kristen Sinema, which I believe is from Arizona, she had been holding out on this whole spending package because of that particular detail. And it sounds like there may be some kind of a carve-out. So if there's a carve-out, then this whole minimum tax thing is not really going to be that much of a minimum tax, because I hate to break it to you, but billion-dollar companies can afford to get the best accountants and CPAs involved in this to find them all the legal loopholes that are available. Funniest thing I thought about this, though, was that tech and pharmaceutical companies are going to, get hit the hardest on this. And the tech companies such as, say, Facebook, say Twitter, did all those favors for their buddies in Washington, D.C., that are now in Washington, D.C. And this is the thanks I get? Come on, guys. Pharmaceutical companies. I mean, the same companies that for years were how shall we say, made a pariah, as Joe Biden likes to say, about Saudi Arabia and about so now he became friends with them during COVID and the CV-19 pandemic. And now it looks like they're shifting back to, hey, let's throw the book at tech and pharmaceutical. We need more money. We need more money for our green agenda, etc., etc. But to answer my original question, does the $700 billion IRA equal stagflation? Well, what is stagflation? Stagflation is persistent high inflation over the course of months and months, quarters and quarters, and slow economic growth combined with high unemployment. Now, right now, we don't have the high unemployment. In my estimation, though, we could very easily hit high unemployment in the next, quarter or two as things slow down. Right now, things are slowing, whether Washington, D.C. wants to admit it or not. I mean, I did a recent video about all the companies that are doing layoffs and letting go their employees. I mean, everyone from Robinhood to 7-Eleven to Wells Fargo to Coinbase and Remax. I mean, and lots of other companies. Thousands of jobs have already gone bye-bye. So if you got your job right now, I suggest you hold on to it as long as possible. But right now, I would say we're not officially in stagflation. But according to my estimation, all the signs are pointing to, after this bill becomes law, stagflation city USA. So maybe I'm wrong, though. I would love to hear what you guys think. Please post your comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget, we are growing. We are at Follow Me 11B here on YouTube. We are at Follow Me 11B on Twitter, on Gettr, on Facebook, and The Real Follow Me 11B on Rumble and on Instagram, and we will see you all on the next video.